What happens when the unstoppable Juggernaut collides with the limitless rage of a Hulk? A battle so intense that the earth trembles, mountains crumble, and the skies roar with fury. As these two titans clash in an all-out war of brute strength, only one will emerge victorious. Can the Juggernaut's unstoppable momentum overpower the Hulk's limitless fury? Or will Hulk's strength grow beyond all limits? Brace yourself for an earth-shattering showdown. Watch till the end to witness the ultimate battle of might. The world was silent before the battle. An eerie stillness hung over the ruined landscape, broken only by the whispering wind that carried the scent of devastation. The battlefield was a desolate wasteland, an ancient valley where mountains once stood tall, but had since crumbled under the weight of past conflicts. The cracked ground bore scars of forgotten wars, a fitting stage for two of the most unstoppable forces in existence. The heavens above churned with ominous clouds, swirling as if the very fabric of reality trembled in anticipation. Lightning flickered across the darkened sky, momentarily illuminating the wasteland in ghostly flashes. The tension in the air was suffocating, thick with the promise of an earth-shattering confrontation. The ground itself seemed to groan in protest, as though it feared what was about to unfold upon it. Then, the first tremor came. A deep, resounding boom echoed across the valley, shaking the fractured earth as a massive, armored figure stomped forward from the horizon. Each step sent violent tremors rippling through the terrain, displacing dust and rubble in his wake. He was an unyielding monolith of destruction, clad in crimson armor that gleamed under the dim, flickering light. The Juggernaut, Cain Marko, marched forward with absolute confidence, the power of Sidorak coursing through his being, making him an unstoppable force of annihilation. His eyes, burning with an almost unnatural glow, surveyed the battlefield with a predatory certainty. The very air around him seemed to distort under the weight of his presence. His fists clenched, muscles tightening beneath his armored gauntlets. The promise of violence resonated through his every motion, the sheer magnitude of his existence pressing against the world like an unrelenting storm. A second tremor followed. From the opposite end of the battlefield, emerging from the shadows of broken stone and crumbling monoliths, came a force just as terrifying. A giant of green fury stepped into the fading light, his every footfall creating cracks that spiderwebbed across the already fractured ground. The Hulk, his massive, muscle frame radiated raw power, a living embodiment of destruction barely held in check. His breath came in deep, measured growls, like the rumble of an impending earthquake. His rage burned like an eternal inferno, swelling with each passing second. His eyes, glowing with an almost unnatural emerald intensity, locked onto his foe with unwavering focus. His fists, like battering rams forged from pure muscle, clenched so tightly that the very air around them seemed to tremble. His chest rose and fell with each breath, his body practically vibrating with restrained power, a walking tempest of unbridled fury. The world held its breath. Dust swirled around them as the wind carried the weight of the moment, an unspoken acknowledgement of the impending clash. The distant echoes of forgotten battles seemed to whisper through the ruins, a solemn reminder of the destruction that titanic beings like these could unleash. The very elements braced themselves, the sky rumbling in protest, the ground quivering under the pressure of what was to come. They stood mere yards apart, two unstoppable forces, two living calamities, facing off in a moment of absolute stillness. There were no words to exchange, no warnings to give. This was not a battle of ideals or vengeance. It was a battle of pure dominance. Then, in a single instant, the silence shattered. The Hulk roared, a thunderous, primal sound that split the air like a war cry from the depths of creation itself. His muscles coiled, and then he surged forward, a green comet of destruction aiming to meet his adversary head-on. At the same time, the Juggernaut let out a booming guttural laugh, more akin to a battle hymn than amusement. His body tensed, his entire being aligning with his singular purpose, unstoppable momentum. And then they collided. The impact was cataclysmic, a shock wave that shattered what little remained of the ancient valley. The earth cracked and split beneath them, sending tremors rippling for miles. The heavens roared in response, bolts of lightning streaking across the sky, as if the gods themselves bore witness to the clash. Mountains that had stood the test of time trembled, their foundations shaken by the sheer force of the collision. Fist met armor, muscle met immovable force, and the very laws of nature seemed to waver under the sheer might of the combatants. The battle had begun, and the world itself would bear the scars of their fury. For the first few moments, it was a stalemate, neither moving, neither yielding. Then, like a tectonic shift, the battle truly began. Juggernaut swung his massive fists, each blow capable of reducing entire cities to rubble. Hulk met them head-on, blocking, countering, striking back with equal ferocity. Every punch tore through the land like a bomb, sending out tremors that collapsed cliffs and sent massive shockwaves across the landscape. The fight moved like a living hurricane of destruction, the two warriors tearing through the battlefield, each impact shaking the world itself. They battled across mountains, their strikes reducing peaks to dust. They clashed in deep valleys, their footsteps creating new chasms that swallowed entire forests. They fought through rivers, their very presence causing tides to shift and whirlpools to form. And yet, neither one slowed. As the battle raged, an undeniable truth began to surface. Hulk was changing. With every blow, his rage intensified. With every moment, his strength grew exponentially. He was evolving mid-battle, his body adapting, pushing past limits that shouldn't have been possible. The once ferocious but predictable powerhouse had become something else, something more terrifying, more unstoppable. Juggernaut, for all his unmovable might, remained constant. His strength, while immense, had a ceiling. It was fixed, unwavering. But Hulk's had no limit. It was an abyss of endless fury, a force that no logic could contain. The battlefield bore witness to this terrifying shift, the very ground trembling beneath the weight of their conflict. For the first time in Juggernaut's existence, he was being forced back. At first it was barely noticeable, a mere shift in his footing, a slight backward motion. But it did not stop there. It became inches, then feet, then yards. Each devastating punch from Hulk carried more force, driving the unstoppable force backward. It was an anomaly, a paradox unraveling in real time. Juggernaut growled, planting his feet deeper into the earth, attempting to regain control. He swung back, each strike fueled by the boundless power of Sidorak. His fists connected, sending shockwaves through the air, leveling what little remained of the shattered landscape. Yet, no matter how hard he hit, Hulk absorbed it, thrived on it, grew stronger from it. Then came the breaking point. A roar, more primal and deafening than any before, tore through the battlefield. Hulk's muscles swelled, his veins pulsing with untamed energy. With a final, earth-shattering uppercut, he struck Juggernaut's unbreakable frame. The impact was like a celestial hammer striking an immovable mountain. The air cracked like thunder, the sky itself seeming to recoil from the sheer magnitude of the blow. Juggernaut's body was sent hurtling across the horizon, carving a devastating path through mountains, valleys, and rivers. Ancient stone structures crumbled like dust, forests were flattened in an instant, and rivers diverted their courses from the sheer force of his trajectory. And for the first time, Juggernaut felt the weight of impact. Pain, a sensation foreign to him. He groaned, a sound rarely heard, as he finally came to a stop, buried beneath the ruins of a mountain he had unwillingly created. Dust and debris clouded the air, the battlefield eerily silent for a moment. But the silence was fleeting. Hulk stood tall amidst the devastation, chest heaving, eyes glowing with unrelenting fury. His fists remained clenched, his body still trembling with power that had yet to be unleashed. For the first time, the unstoppable force had been moved. And for the first time, the world questioned if anything could stop the Hulk. Hulk charged again, this time faster, stronger, more enraged than ever before. His fists burned with unrelenting fury, his muscles pulsing with boundless power. He was no longer just fighting, he was dominant. With a final cataclysmic strike, Hulk slammed his fist down with the force of a collapsing star. The impact was apocalyptic. The land split apart, a canyon the size of an ocean forming where Juggernaut once stood. The sky trembled, clouds dispersing in all directions as the energy from Hulk's final attack spread like a shockwave across continents. When the dust settled, Juggernaut lay motionless. His armor was cracked, his body buried beneath the remains of a shattered mountain. Hulk stood victorious, his chest heaving, fists clenched, his green eyes still burning with fury. He had done the impossible. He had beaten the unstoppable force.